Hi everyone, this is Ubersu again, and today I've decided to record a movie review, something that I have never done on my channel and wanted to do ever since the back-breaking documentary by Tariq Nasheed was released. Though I have ultimately decided against it at the time, I still felt like I have to do some sort of a review of another black movie, and it didn't take me so long to wait for a perfect replacement. Now, I've seen other people doing a review of the trailer before the movie was out, but I've decided to wait until the movie was released and watch it instead of just getting triggered over a trailer, and hence here we are at a full-scale review of the movie. And for the disclaimer, I have never done a movie review before, at least professionally, and I don't really like the standard movie review process anyways, where they just tell you the whole story and then leave their opinion in the last minute of the video, or sometimes they don't even do that. So I've decided to do something different. I'll start off with the assumptions and the goal messages of the movie, then I'll move to the main characters, some of the script details, as well as the overall quality of the movie, and then I'll finish it off. Although it is probably needless to say, but I'll say it anyways, the sole premise of the movie, as well as its central theme, was expressed by its very light-skinned BIPOC director Daniel Koch in an interview to a person who thinks of himself as a racial minority.
We didn't pull no punches. We ran at it head on. Like, this isn't a science fiction movie about perceived racism. This is about racism you see every day on your cell phone and on television. You know, that we all know what a Karen is. We could all relate to it. And it was like kind of like a level playing field for me to be able to, tell this story about, one incident, where things just go off the rail.
And the clues for that are spread throughout the film. The message is pretty straightforward. We know what a Karen is, and this is Karen. Now, the quality of the movie aside, I feel like I do need to state my opinion with regards to the Karen phenomenon that had, by the director's own admission, caused him to film this monstrosity. Is it real, and if it is, to what extent it manifests itself in the real world is a matter of debate that I am not willing to have right now. However, what baffles me the most about this movie is not just its poor implementation, but the hypocrisy behind portraying the most outrageous white woman stereotype by a person who is probably getting constantly offended when people point out to him accurate and not outlandish black stereotypes. Movies like this should, in my opinion, be subjected to the same cultural standards if you want to play it fair and square. Now, to my sincere surprise, the movie was heavily criticized by the movie critics, yet their critiques mostly were tied to the delivery of its central message, which is an agreement with the BLM movement and an idea that there is some sort of a systemic racism perpetrated against blacks and that we live in a white supremacist society. Though the director rests us assured, those who complain are Karens themselves.
You can't watch a film like Karen and go, yeah, I'm tired of crazy bitches like this too, then you might be a Karen.
Anyhow, the movie starts off unabashedly with an introduction to the main protagonist of the movie, the white Karen, who immediately washes off the Black Lives Matter sign off the road, which I assume signifies the quote real white women's attitudes towards black bodies, if this was to be interpreted by a critical race theory. Throughout the rest of the movie, this message is only reinforced and amplified, and the more closely you get to the ending, the less sense things make and the more unrealistic they sound. Karen is essentially a collection of all negative white women stereotypes and viral videos that were trending on YouTube and TikTok, exacerbated by a factor of 5 manifested in an actual person. A person that is extremely racist, rude, vindictive, insincere, and behaves like a snake, who has no actual life other than causing harm to black bodies, whether by calling the police on them, having the quote white woman tear moments, yes, they even got to bring up that one, being suspicious, and watching every single move of their black neighbors with like 10 cameras, even at one point climbing on their cars in order to get attention from them, so that she could be unabashedly racist and vindictive to a point that she will literally dump a garbage container on their private property because they put it too early or something. And that is before finally breaking into their house and attempting to murder the black woman Karen just because she doesn't like blacks to be around her. Yeah, this is the logic of this movie, get used to it. She's obsessed with them to a point of trying to seduce a black man after watching them copulate together across her window, despite white women statistically not finding black men attractive. This is just a fantasy of liberal white cuckolds and some blacks, not that something that manifests in reality. The writing of that character is extremely flawed, yet the director probably thinks of himself as a rare genius, as apparently he wanted to understand Karen, as he explains himself.
And even, in some of the writing in the film, you'll see we tried to get inside Karen's psyche to try to maybe not understand, because we'll never understand, but at least let a person express, why are you this way? Like what makes you feel like this is okay? And to her, it's perfectly logical.
And as you can guess, it didn't go well, as all he could think of is some personal drama and blacks moving into their neighborhood while she was very young. And not just that, but all bad white people in this movie are bitter about blacks all because they are secretly racist or because something happened in their life that they thought was the fault of blacks. Sounds like a projection to me. It is especially funny when Karen finds her way into an all-black party, which I assume every Karen would actually love to do in real life, and starts randomly lecturing them to, and I quote, "Get over slavery. All lives matter. Hey, I'm not racist," repeating it all throughout the movie, and especially "I never owned any slaves" part, which was then corrected by an even cringier comment by some BIPOC saying, "Oh, your ancestors kind of did, sweetheart," or insert some other catchphrase along those lines, which by the way is a very prejudiced assumption that is not actually statistically accurate. Now, regardless of what you think of those propositions independently, in the context in which they were said, they were so cringe that I became red while watching it. Now, the reason why I don't show you the video clips is that I don't want to deal with a copyright strike from an angry director, so unfortunately you'll have to look at these pictures, and for clarity you should probably watch the movie itself, as there are many parts that I'm going to miss while doing a review. The next character, or characters, I guess will be referred to as the Black Family Unit, consisting of a BIPOC woman breadwinner and an alpha black male who's got it all under control with his charisma. They are an unironic massive woke SJWs who have just moved into the white neighborhood and are trying to be friendly with everyone and behave nice, and they're doing it pretty well, including Karen's children, where the woman teaches them some social skills and kindness, because as we all know, white people very much lack it, and the man teaches them some basketball because, well, white people are not predisposed to excel in it. Come on, white boy, handle this ball.
It's just how sad I feel that we have to fight for our place.
Yeah, it's insane, man, that in this day and age, that people still think that they're superior to another person for any reason. You know what I mean? Like, it baffles me, and that's
Now, the main shtick of this couple is to have a child and raise them here, but how unfortunate. It's impossible because fucking racism is preventing them from having it. And I'm not making this up, by the way, you have to watch the movie, and in the end, when they finally have it, you are let know that racism is defeated in this neighborhood. Now, I think there is a deeper message to it, which is poorly realized, and the message is that children are supposedly innocent of racism and they shouldn't be exposed to it, and that it is learned and not biological, and also the kids of Karen did not act racist unlike her, yet the implementation of that is very poor and you never actually think deeply about it after watching the movie. The final important character of this movie is the white cop, who is basically the manifestation of systemic racism against blacks, despite countless evidence that this is not the case, such as this massive peer-reviewed study by Charles Klum finding only 2 weak positive relationships between race and use of force out of 17 studies, while also finding 8 positive relationships between, for example, gender and the use of force. But if you want to know more about it, I recommend watching my video on this topic. Anyhow, this police officer will plant drugs, aim a gun at blacks for no reason, abuse his powers, beat blacks for no reason, and do all other ridiculous shit that I'm sure the director of this movie actually thinks is happening right now and is the manifestation of systemic racism, which was depicted in this movie as the Brotherhood, a secret organization of presumably racist white police officers that allows them to do whatever they want to do with blacks and get away with it, and apparently it is spread throughout large chunks of the police, as this big black lawyer kindly informs us of. Another proof of systemic racism occurs when Karen interacts with other homeowners' associates and is informed that they are basically on her side, winking at her, and even when they discharge her from her position, they are basically saying that they are doing it for optical reasons and not because they actually give a fuck. What's even more funny is that the director wants us to believe that a woman who was fired from a kindergarten for being racist was apparently the head of the HOA at some point. These white people, I guess. I have a strong sense of conviction that Daniel Koch, the person who directed it, has never interacted with a racist white person, nor is familiar with white people in general, so he made a movie about every possible racist remark that you can think of being expressed in this movie by people who are way too obsessed with black people. It's not even just my opinion, but apparently this movie is trending on the black internet and they are in the similar opinion as I am. Now, although systemic racism is not real, what is real is black people experiencing anxiety while interacting with white people and vice versa. And I feel like they could have done a better job had they actually focused on this and didn't portray the main two black characters as having no issues whatsoever with moving into a rich white neighborhood, which I found hard to believe. This is why so few white people have any black friends, and this is why, perhaps without realizing, but blacks seem to also hang out with other blacks as was portrayed in this film. The only people who were truly forming interracial connections here were Karen, her daughter, who was dating a black guy at an age of 9 or grade 3, and her brother that is a racist police officer who only interacts with them in order to abuse them, all while wishing blacks to move out of their neighborhood. Yes, I know, throw the logic out of the window. The movie overall is very poorly made. The characters were black and white, either good or bad, and Karen looked as a satirical version of the racist black collective's version of a white woman. There was no character development. The story was too simplistic and unrealistic to follow. There were many unexpected turns, such as the black woman shooting Karen with a recently randomly spawned gun that came out of the blue, or Karen coming there to murder them in the first place and being vindictive about it because oh shit, they moved into the wrong neighborhood, gotta take care of that one. The most annoying thing for me in the movie, so to speak, besides its rebellion against reality, was the soundtrack of this movie, which was awful. And unfortunately I can't play it here because of a copyright strike, but the quality of the soundtrack is not even the worst thing about it. The issue is where and when a certain music is being played. Whenever you hear a bad white person doing their evil things, you've got a stereotypically evil music playing in the background, and whenever the black couple or other good black Samaritans do their good things or fight against the collective forces of white supremacy, some black heroic semi-jazz, semi-rap, semi-something else music is being played in the background as a manifestation of black power, I assume. The culmination of cringe occurs when these two types of music collide and are played right after each other in the same shot, and boy, you got to watch it for yourself. But if I were to illustrate how precisely terrible it feels to listen to it, here's a non-copyright free replacement. Now, to finish off this monstrosity, I think it is appropriate for me to give an overall rating of this movie, and my verdict is 2 out of 10. Why 2 instead of 1? Well, I happen to follow a reader's response theory, and although this may not be an intended interpretation of the movie, and it's not, but I happen to interpret it as a satire on blacks' imagination of what a racist white person is, and how they act, and what is systemic racism, as well as how it manifests itself itself in their imagination. I think this movie did a good job at showing what many blacks are thinking about white people behind the curtains, as well as what they project into the white consciousness. But anyways, that was all for this week, and because I have started working and resumed my university, I'll not produce as much videos as I used to in the past, yet I do have some great ideas and videos in the making, so stay tuned.
I want to ask you, how are you able to keep a good balance where you're keeping a good flow in the storyline, not going too over the top, but at the same time making sure the message gets across?
Well, a big thing in writing and also filmmaking is nuance, and even though it's dead in your face and all that, I still try to nuance it and kind of let her build up into her aggression and kind of seeing her unravel, little by little, where it's just, she starts off as this sweet, innocent, kind of like nosy neighbor, but then little by little, you're like, oh no, it's deeper than that.